Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
right, welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is April 13th, Palm Sunday. Happy Palm Sunday, everybody out there who celebrates this holiday. My wife and I both came down with the flu today. We cooked for our family, but they seemed to have eaten the meal and enjoyed it. We just couldn't get to it. We are down for the count. I hope I can make it through the whole 2 hour show. I should be able to do that because we got a great bunch of guests tonight. My good friend Kurt Phillips from Witchkiller is on. He'll be calling in the first half of the show, and then George Cole from Aska in the second half of the show. It doesn't get any better than that, does it? Right there, we kick things off tonight with Pretty Maids and Future World. To me, that was the last Pretty Maids record that I really cared about. The EP came out in 1983, I want to say. I think I was like 14 years old when that came out. I was working at a toy store in Brooklyn. That's when we had toy stores, before everybody bought everything on Amazon. And they were mom and pop shops, not like, KB or Toys R Us or the bigger ones. And I think I made like $2 an hour. Maybe I made $20 a week working a couple hours after school on a Saturday. And going into Zigzag Records, I had a couple of demo tracks from Pretty Maids from the first demo from '82, and I saw it up on the wall. And when EPs came out back then, because an EP was only like maybe $1 less than a record back then. So I always try to get a record to get more songs on the album because I had such a limited amount of money as a teenager. But there were 6 songs on the EP, so I said, let's go for it. Plus, how could you not? I mean, you had that smoking hot girl on there, straddling the guitar with the white stockings and garter belt on. So I have to get the album. I forgot what I put on hold till a week later when I got paid, but don't regret it. I still have it in my collection today. But Pretty Maids went like, they became like the Dutch Def Leppard in a way. They started getting much more commercial, especially around the Stripped era, the Sin Decade, most of the '90s stuff. They tried to become like Def Leppard. They went more commercial, more poppy, and I really wasn't into a lot of that stuff. I mean, I have all those records. I always buy and support, but I just didn't really care for them at the time. To me, Red Hot and Heavy, Future World, you can see the changes coming on those 2 records, and that was about it for me with the band. But Ronnie Atkins, the singer, he's like got stage 4 cancer or something. He's been fighting it for a long time, and he actually looks pretty good when you see him performing live. So I don't know what he's doing to keep healthy. I wish the best for him, but him and Ken had a little falling out. They weren't performing for a long time, and it's a shame to waste all that time, especially when you're sick and you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. But they put it back together. They're working on new music right now. Hopefully, they'll do a little throwback and go back to the early days of the band, and not the later days. We'll have to see what happens. But hey, you know what? I was going to say we just made it through the week, I think, with anybody passing away. Then Steve Price, the guitar player from Thor, passed away a couple of days ago. He also played in Phantom Lord with Ned Maloney, Jack Starr, and Joe Hasselvander. Besides playing guitar in the band with Jack, he also sang vocals, I think, on the second record, or was it the first record? I don't remember. But he sang lead vocals on one of the albums, maybe even on both of them. I just don't remember, to be honest with you. It's a long time ago. But I remember seeing Thor at Lemoore around '84, '85, and they, the music was okay. He had a couple of songs that I liked, but it was more of a show than like, just seeing a good band with good music. He used to come out there and bend the iron bar in half. He was like, wow, look at him, he's bending an iron bar. I think it was a real iron bar too. He was a strong son of a bitch, that guy, John Michael Thor. And then he'd come out with the water bottle and blow it up and it would explode. I mean, it was a lot of theatrics, but it was some pretty good stuff. So how about, let me see, I got some Thor lined up. I also have some Phantom. Let's do Phantom Lord for Steve. Here's Mercy Killer.
You're so pieces in your
All right, Scavenger. Christian wanted to hear that last week. We had a lot of technical problems. We had to end the show early, so I know you're one behind on the request to Christian, but there you go, Scavenger. My ears are ringing. Before that, Tyrant Train with Reign of Terror, and we kicked off that set with Phantom Lord and Mercy Killer for Steve Price, who passed away this week. We're going to get to Kurt in about 10 minutes or so. They were talking about the new Dark Angel in the chat, and if you had played me that song and didn't tell me who it was, I would have never have guessed Dark Angel. The vocals did not sound like Ron. I mean, to me, I don't even know what to say. It was horrible, and I didn't see very many good reviews and many good comments about it on Blabbermouth or on people who were posting it on Facebook. Not many people had anything good to say about this song. I have to be honest with you, and this is what happens. Jimmy Durkin passed away. They said he wrote the song many years ago, but obviously they kind of tinkered with it and changed it around. Why Eric Meyer is not more involved in the songwriting to keep it more like it was with the older records is beyond me. They kind of let Gene take over the whole band. He put his wife on guitar. She's a guitar player for the band now. You could hear his influence and what he does with his other bands in this song, and it's just not Dark Angel. I mean, and Gene's not even an original member of the band. So I mean, I just can't get into it. I just can't dig it. I'm sorry to say that, but just can't. All right, let's get on one more tune because then I want to play some Witchkiller before we get Kurt on here. Let's do some Manowar. It's been a while since we played them. Kill with Power.
Hear what's written on the wind. riders will
All right, Witchkiller, Riders of Doom. Let's get Kurt on the air right now. Let me dial him up, so bear with me here a second. Okay. All right, here we go.
Hello,
What's going on there, Kurt? How are you, my friend?
Mike. I am ready for the
I'm happy to have you on. I thought I was going to have to cancel tonight's show because with the 25% tariffs that we have, I realized it was only on aluminum and steel, not metal. So I was able to have you on here tonight. It did cost me the extra money.
mayhem. Well struck, good squire.
Yeah,
Well struck. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you? How you feeling today?
I feel great. I'm in my backyard pondering stuff that I got to do. We got some people coming in to do some work on some of our trees tomorrow, so I got to move some stuff. But it's always great to have a metallic interlude with you. So this is great.
Absolutely. I love talking to you. You know that. And I have to tell you, last summer when you called me up and you told me the news that you got a new lineup of the band together, you're going to be playing at Headbangers Open Air. You're like, you can't say nothing till January. I'm like, you know what? I'm such a yenta. I don't know how I'm going to keep this quiet for like the next 6 months, but I did. So I was kind of proud of myself that I didn't tell nobody. I kept it a secret.
Well, it's so funny. You wanna share it with people that are special in our journeys, and you've always been so kind to us. And you're such a cool dude, And I listen to your show, and you have such great guests on it, and you have such a great archive of music. It really brings me back to this very important time of my life that's actually never really gone away. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for always giving us
Yeah.
this great music, and I know that we're going to be getting more, hopefully. So, I mean, how'd it go? You had the rehearsals this weekend with the new lineup of Witchkiller. How did it go?
Oh, dude, it was like unreal. So there's a place here in Victoria, BC, Canada, on Vancouver Island called Stefano Pasta's Art Farm, and it's a rehearsal facility, but there's also a recording studio in there, and the recording studio is manned by a gentleman named Danny Dean, who's actually a friend of mine from way back in Ottawa. We met when he was 17 and I was 19, and that was like more than 2 weeks ago, I can tell you that. Anyway, so he ended up out here. Danny's an incredible singer, but he's also really fantastic with technology. He's great behind the board of a studio, and he's really, really skilled with audio visual stuff. So we recorded it. I'm going to meet him tomorrow around 3 o'clock my time tomorrow, and look at the finished work. And but I'll tell you, dude, to put on my leather pants and strap on my guitar and to be there with these Dwayne on bass and Mike on drums and James singing and playing. We had a small audience. We only had room for 8 people to play for people. It's been so long, but the play was unreal. Like I can't even put it into words, the feeling. I was a bit nervous and stuff like that, but as soon as the opening drum roll went on, it was just like pow, and I was right there, and it was really, really fantastic. So I feel pretty fortunate to have these folks that love the music and want to be part of renewing it. So that's awesome. So.
Yeah, it seems like you put a great lineup together. James from Lycanthrope, I mean, he's an amazing singer, so I know he's going to do justice to the old songs and hopefully, new songs also in there. But how'd you come about coming across James? How'd you hook up with him?
Well, you can't even make this stuff up, right? So I'm on Facebook, and this thing comes into my feed, and there's this dude, and he's got like long hair, and he's got aviator shades on, and he's got a band called Lycanthrope, and they're releasing an album called Mark of the Wolf, and I look and I go, oh, this guy's from Ottawa, and it totally reminded me of me when I was that age. He just looked like a metal dude, and so I contacted him, and he bounced me back pretty quick, and he knew who I was, and that was quite a thrill because he's from Ottawa, and of course, Witchkiller started in Ottawa. And we just kind of communicated, and I said, "Oh, it's great that you're releasing an album," and blah blah blah, and it kind of went along. And then after a while, we had a couple of conversations, and we chatted on the phone, and just I knew that he was going to be the singer for Witchkiller, and so it kind of went along. And he said to me one day, "Dude, you gotta get Witchkiller happening again." And we chatted a bit more, and I finally said to him, would you like to be the singer? He said, if you're ever looking for a singer, but I already knew then. And then, so we kind of got that up and running because, Doug, after the situation, we were asked to do a festival, and we were going to do this festival in Europe, but it got canceled because of the coronavirus. And Doug really didn't want to do anything after that. Doug's a really super busy guy, and he's got a lot of stuff going on, and he was very gracious about the situation, so I knew that was not going to be a problem. And so James is the guy, and he's like awesome.
That's great. Yeah, because I remember the first time I had you on the show was in 2019 because I think you were on, Doug was on, Todd was on. I think maybe all you guys were on at that time, if I remember. And you were talking about getting back together and doing the Keep It True festival. Then who knew like a year later that what was going to happen with COVID. I remember it got postponed to the summer, but that wasn't going to pan out either because we were kind of done with it for like a couple of years. But I was so happy that you got back together because I remember. I want to say 2012, around that time, you guys were also talking about doing it again, and you stepped out of the picture because it just wasn't working with everybody being so far apart from each other. So it was like 2 times that it didn't happen. I was so disappointed. Then when I heard about this, I was like, he's going to make it happen this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always believed that there was more gas in the tank, and I didn't really know how it was going to happen. And I mean, on one hand, it's kind of, pretty Spinal Tap-ish in one way, but in the other way, a dream that won't die is a dream that won't die. Then it just becomes figuring out how to make it work, right? And not everyone has the same dream, so you just keep going and figuring stuff out as it goes along. The main thing for me is why the dream never died was because people like yourself and tons of people would contact me, fans and magazines and stuff. Laurent Romadier from Snake Pit magazine. I mean, there's lots of them, and unfortunately, I'm not going to remember them now because my brain is focused on this conversation. But there's lots of folks, and they would always say, when is Witchkiller going to do something? When is Witchkiller going to play live? Are you guys going to record some more music? And so for me, it was. I mean, it's not like I got 50 letters a week, anything like that, but it was constant, and I just knew that this is not just about me wanting to fulfill a dream. This is a dream that people wanted to see as well, and so you just keep moving forward, and then it happens. So yeah.
That's all you can do. But you've always kept busy musically. I mean, you had Ace Code and Warhag. You've recorded with other people over the years too. You've done some solo stuff. So there's always been music out from you. Maybe it wasn't the Witchkiller stuff that we all wanted, but it was a lot of other really great music that you put out that people really need to go back into the catalog and check out the stuff that you put out. But with Witchkiller, I mean, there were so many songs from back in the early days that never really saw the light of day, just what came out on Day of the Saxon. So, I mean, are you looking to redo a lot of those songs with the new lineup, or I know the focus right now is live, getting this festival, in the bag and moving on from there. But are you looking to redo anything of the old stuff, or are you just going to start working on new material? You think with this lineup?
Well, we talked about that, and I mean, really, part of it is dependent on who wrote the material, right? So I really want to only focus on stuff that I was the major writer on, or the complete writer, because that just saves a lot of headaches, right? So and we want to avoid any headaches. So there's still some stuff, and it's just about creating music that is under the banner of the style of Witchkiller, and I think that's the most important thing. So.
True. Is the style of Witchkiller today going to be the same as it was in 1984? Is it going to be, is it going to move on a little bit from all the different influences that have come into your life in the last 30-something years?
Well, yeah, but I think yes and no. I mean, part of it, like, I listen to a lot of bands, and the newer bands that I like are bands that write material, when I say this, I don't want to come off as being that wayish, because it's not my intent. I'm not interested in down-tuned stuff. I'm not interested in 7-string guitars. I'm not interested in 8-string guitars. I'm not interested in industrial music or anything like that. That's just not my thing. And so that is all to be avoided. But when I listen to stuff like newer bands that I really like, or older bands, like, I mean, I just thought that the new Judas Priest Invincible Shield was such an unreal album. And
yeah.
There's nothing, when I say there's nothing new going on, what I don't mean it to be, it's not new. What it is their ability to progress without going so far out that the core of fans that want that, because really the new wave of British heavy metal fans and all that's what they want. And that's, for when I do the Witchkiller stuff, that's what I want to do. It's reminiscent of that. So, that's really what I look at wanting to write, and wanting to continue. And, I mean, I think there's an element of production that you want to have, but you don't want it to be too super modern, because then it has a sound that I think is not authentic. It's always a fine line, because you're just trying to say, I want to push the boundaries myself as an artist, because basically I write songs that I want to hear. And so you want to push the boundaries as an artist, but if you make something like too completely bizarre, then you lose the audience. So you want to try and write stuff for various audiences. When you write different kinds of music, you want to write stuff for audiences that want to hear what you are writing of that style of music.
Very true. And you have the old school fans like myself that have been there since the beginning, that want to hear anything that you do. You have these young kids today that have come into the scene over the last 10 or 15 years that weren't around back in the 80s. Some of them weren't even born back then. And they've come fans of the music and of the band. And then you have people that just, wander into it and become new fans. And when you use the word modern gets such a bad rap. I mean, because I have, bands come on the show and like, well, the new record's kind of modern sound. And I play it, I'm like, all right, that's really modern, like whatever that means, And then you have bands that say that. I'm like, well, this just sounds like an updated version of what you were doing back in the 80s. Nothing bad or different. I think it gets a bad connotation, the word modern, And when you listen to like you just mentioned Judas Priest, the last two records were phenomenal. They were such a throwback to the 80s, yet they were updated, if that's a better word to use than the 80s stuff. I think a lot of it has to do with Richie Faulkner, who's, putting his influence in there and bringing that style of music back for him again.
Oh, I mean, Richie, to me, I think Richie Faulkner's contributions to Judas Priest shocked everyone, including Judas Priest and Richie Faulkner, because they thought this was just going to be the end of the road, and then Firepower and the album before that, which I always forget the title, but I love the song Halls of Valhalla. And then Invincible Shield. They continued it, and Richie's guitar playing is so wicked, but his sensibility of the riffs that he writes, I think it stretches it a little bit. In fact, it really reminded me of, Sin After Sin, where there'd be a bit more journeys or even the staggered parts. So I'm not sure how much Glenn contributed to the album, but there's no doubt that Glenn's DNA has definitely imposed itself onto Richie's sensibilities, because it's just, when I heard Panic Attack, so I knew the song was going to be released on a Friday, and I play hockey, so I came home Friday morning and I thought, is it going to be on? And I put it on, and I don't normally try and enjoy music on my earbuds from my iPhone, but my wife was sleeping because it was 12:30 Friday morning, and I put it on, and I heard the beginning of Panic Attack with that keyboard guitar kind of turbo-y thing, and I was, I'm staring at my phone. I am stunned by how amazing this thing sounds. It's like completely new, and it was like a throwback to when I first heard the first Iron Maiden, and then I'm hearing this song, and it's like the riff's developing, and it's like Travis is just pounding on the drums, and then the song starts, and it's got that keyboard pad, and then Halford's singing, and I'm transfixed. It's like 12:30 in the morning. I'm staring at my iPhone in my kitchen with my earbuds on. I listened to Panic Attack 6 times in a row, and I was just filled with wonder. And that, that's what music does. That's what music does. And so that just blew me away. I just went, this is crazy. And then, of course, the album is really a massive work of art. So, yeah.
It is, and like Judas Priest kind of wandered all over. Like after the '80s, they had stuff that was like hair metal when that kind of came into play, and then they did a little bit of the grungy stuff with Ripper when he joined the band, and that was it. Then it came back around to metal. So like they've been all over the place. We have bands like Iron Maiden and AC/DC who deliver basically the same record every time out, because they know that's what the fans want and that's what they want to hear, and they give them exactly what they want. Then they do side projects that if Steve has British Line going, Richie Faulkner has Elegant Weapons, two completely different bands than their main group. So I guess that's the way of expressing themselves outside of what they have to do for the fans. So when it comes to Witchkiller, like you said, how much of your influence do you want to put into the new music, and how much do you want to keep sort of the same?
Well, I think that it just trying to describe the act of songwriting and creativity is really yelling into the void, because it's such an abstract thing. But I think about a phrase comes into my head, or a riff. Like I got a couple of songs, they evolve, and I think that the songs have gotten maybe a bit longer. Well, a couple of them have become a bit longer. I have a song, as we've had a conversation. Gord Kirchen was a very close friend of mine, and his passing crushed me. I just remember, actually, it was Danny Dean that phoned me because he's good friends with Lance Chalmers, and Lance was probably Gord's closest friend. And right after he passed, and Gord and I had been working on this song called Glory Bound, and Gord was saying, "Oh God, I'm this is really tough where I'm at," and blah blah blah. And then he passes, and I hear about it, and I had to, I still had the guitar shop, so I'm wandering around the downtown Victoria just in a complete daze. It crushed me. Like my mom and my dad's passing, and then Gord's passing had the greatest impact of sorrow visited upon my soul. And so I want to complete that. It's quite a long song. It's about 7 minutes long. But it has to be done, because that's a work that Gord and I were involved in. Well, he's going to be involved in it. So, but like I said, the songs, they if you apply yourself to them, you get the idea, and then you nurture it and you work on it, and you demo it and you change stuff, and that's how it is. blueprint for just doing it. So yeah.
True. I'm guessing his vocals were already completed on the song, so you're gonna be able to, salvage that.
No, actually, it actually didn't get that far. I had sent him. So one thing I'm really good at is the most crudest of demos. So the demo that I sent him had me singing on it, a drum machine that just had one beat. I hit start and went through it, and then all the guitar parts on it. So Gord did not put any musical stuff down because he had just gotten it, and we'd been talking about the arrangement and stuff like that. So unfortunately, it won't be uplifted by anything of Gord, except for the sentiment that I shared about the song's called Glory Bound, and so I'll leave it at that. And then, but that will be the prime. There's 4 songs that I have that will be the prime considerations. That's the prime of the prime for the next demos that we're going to do. So, yeah.
Oh, that'd be great. And Dave the Sax is, I can't believe, but 41 years old this year. That's just unbelievable to think about that the record came out that long ago. Metal Blade records, back in the day. I think Metal Blade re-released it around 2012 on CD, but people still can't get a hold of this record. They want this record. They want the demos released, or maybe remastered versions of it on some sort of compilation. Do you guys own the rights to that record again, or is it still in the Metal Blade's control?
Well, I actually found the original contract, and so I'm chatting with a buddy of mine who's part of what he does is that. But I mean, I would not. I would love to do something with it, and then if we could do something with that or re-record the songs or something like that. But it's trickier than, I mean, anyone that's in our industry kind of knows it can be a bit of a slippery eel. And having said that, it would be nice to do something that would have the album and then some other songs, because that's how it would have been, right? So we would have.
Yeah.
That was the plan for the second record, was to re-release the songs on the EP done. We wouldn't have redone them. We would have probably remixed them and maybe added something. Although, I mean, one thing I'm not much for is when you're basically a trio with a front man, which is what Witchkiller was, 1 guitar, 1 bass, drums. You just want to be able to find that spot and just have it sound that way instead of overdubbing like lots of stuff that you can't really replicate. And I just like to be in a 1 guitar band, not because I think I'm a great guitar player. I'm just a utilitarian guitar player. I do what I do, and that's what I do, just because it's easier. The less people you have to involve, the easier it is to get the machine going, right? So,
absolutely.
So to actually answer your question, if that is a possibility that it's on board with, then that would be delightful to do that. And if it's not a possibility, then that leaves it right there, because that's what can you do except for replace it with newer music. So
absolutely, I agree. The less people that have their hands in the pot, the better things turn out most of the time. I mean, look at Iron Man. They got 3 guitar players out there. I don't know how they all get along, but they seem to make it work. I mean, I guess at the level they're at and the money they're making and the amount of times they play, it's probably nothing to them to go out there and do it. But 3 of them in a band. Then like I said, we talked about Judas Priest earlier. You always saw like KK and Glenn were like this amazing team. Then later on, they both write books how they hated each other. They didn't get along with each other. One was stealing the spotlight from the other. One was taking solos away from the other. So there's a lot of that garbage, and it does cause friction in the band, and eventually it did with Priest down the road years later.
Oh yeah, I mean it does make me a bit sad, loving that classic lineup. But the thing is, it was interesting. I was talking to James about that, trying to explain how complicated being in a band is. So I just say to people, listen, are you married? Yeah. Are you in a long-term relationship? Yeah. Okay. So imagine if there was like 2 or 3 other people that you had the same intensity of the relationship all stuck together, right? It's really, 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 really difficult to have an enduring long-term lineup unless people can figure out what their roles in the band are and be satisfied with that. So it made me sad when KK, was bemoaning it. And then, but on the other hand, it's like, hey man, just go do your own band. You're doing great. KK's Priest. He has you get, it's no different than Metallica and Megadeth or any of the numerous bands out there that split. And it's just like, hey man, if you want to be the boss, now you're the boss, then just leave that other stuff aside, right? Play the songs that you like from the band that you were in, and that's the way it is. So, yeah.
True. I mean, every band member plays a role in the band. Some guys are just content to be in the band, happy, playing the songs that are written, by some member of the band. Other bands have members where one maybe handles, the manager part of it, the bookings, another member handles the songwriting, one does this. So, yeah, it works out different ways for different people. I mean, but like you talk about Metallica, Lars and James, that's Metallica. They write everything, they put everything together,
Yeah.
and the rest of the guys are content being on that. I mean, they're playing in front of a million people, a week. So they're happy with that, but it works for them, but it doesn't work for everybody. So do you think that egos play too much of a part in like being in a band and being a band member, not being a unit?
Well, I mean, one of the things that, and this is about as Canadian as it gets, I find that playing on a hockey team and playing in a band are the same. The goalie and the drummer are really kind of the same.
Yeah.
Right? And then the defenseman, you got two defensemen, so you got one bass player. The bass player is the defenseman, and the singer and the guitar players are the center and the right wing and the left wing. That's sort of my thing. So if you have someone on the team that hogs the puck all the time because they want to get the most amount of points for themselves, that doesn't mean the team's going to win. So, and if you have a goalie who's not doing their job, they're not stopping the pucks. If you have the defenseman not doing their job, and so the thing about the ego is if the ego is focused on how do we make the band successful, then that's a different thing. If you have the ego going, this is all about me, when it's not really all about you, that's destructive, and that cannot stand, right? So. So the destruction comes from people not understanding their role and what their gifts are and how their gifts advance everybody else. So a bad ego is a bad thing, yeah.
Well, you talk about the band in the early days. Doug was a great singer. I mean, he had a very unique voice, and it lent itself well to the music. Now you have James taking over the vocals. Are you letting him do his own thing with what, the music was back then, or are you saying, hey, kind of keep it to the way it was, or you giving him kind of free reign to experiment with the older songs?
Well, that's actually, before James and I moved forward, we talked about that a lot. And basically what it is there's certain things that got to be. They are, and that's the gig. So if you can do that gig, and basically what James and I did in that capacity was he has all the tracks, and he just removed the vocals because you just get a vocal remover, and he just re-sang the songs the way that he heard them. And then, so he sent them to me, and I would listen to them, and I would comment. And the thing about that, why that was really great, was then you realize the angle that James is coming from, because you can't, if you just wanted him to be a clone, that's not fair to him, and it's not fair. I mean, it's just not fair to him. So he was able to, and some stuff I said, yeah, no, you got to stick with this, and he said, cool, but other stuff I said, man, I never heard that before. That sounds great. So he has a fair amount of leeway, but he's also completely being a fan. Being a fan of the band, he understands a certain amount of obligation to the real thing. And speaking of Doug's voice, Doug has a completely unique voice. I can't think of any other singer that sounds like Doug. Doug has a voice that I'm sure there are a couple of other singers out there, but I listen to a lot of metal, and no one has the sound of voice that Doug has. Doug has an extremely distinctive voice, and he brought that live. Doug was a great singer live, and he was a great front man, and I'm super grateful to have been part of something that he was doing. So that's really great. So
When you
I
decide
answered
that
the
you're going
question.
to, absolutely, you did. That was a great answer.
Okay.
But
Okay.
when you decided to put this new lineup together, I mean, did you say to yourself, I want to go completely new? Did you say maybe I'll talk to Todd, maybe I'll talk to Steve, or do you just say that's not even an option? Because I remember last time we spoke, you told me Todd is playing with John Ricci from Exciter and his new band, so he had that going on. But was it like I want to reach out to some of the older guys, or I just want a clean, fresh start with the band?
Well, I knew that Doug was not an option by his own benevolent
Yeah,
choice. So that opened that up, and then I knew that Todd was really really busy with Power Rage, and that I didn't want to put him in a. We talked a bit, but I didn't want him to be in a position because here's what happens: you do something like that, and then a gig comes up, and it's like, does he play the show with? Does he? And one's in Spain, and the other's in the Netherlands, and they're all within 24 hours of each other, and it would be impossible for him to be at both.
yeah,
So and so that's not practical. And the other thing for me was that I wanted to be playing with people that I could actually play music with together. So Dwayne, I played with Dwayne in a band in Victoria called Ace Coden
yep.
here, and Dwayne is awesome, and he's a great musician. He's a great dude. He's got incredible enthusiasm, and it just wouldn't make sense for the drummer, the bass player, and myself. I wanted to be able to play on a constant basis, which we've been able to do. We rehearsed every week for the last few months, and then we'll be able to rehearse on a constant basis because we also want to be working on the new material as well. And so that was the way that made the most sense for us to move forward. And it's tough having James back there, but we send him demos, and like I said, he did the vocal remover on the stuff from the album, and then the other songs. I sent him stuff, and he did a vocal remover on that, and we'll work on that because that's just James is such a fantastic find. I can't Mike. I can't even believe how fortunate I am. It just blows my mind that all of a sudden all this cats that I've been hurting are now happily in this one place, and so yeah.
That's a great way to put it. I agree with you. I always think it's better when a band lives near each other, they're not far from each other, so they can get together to rehearse, write music. Having a single a little further away is not that big of a deal today because with the internet and with file swapping and sharing stuff, he can always lay his vocals down to it and come back in when he's there to perform with you guys. So I agree. It forms a tightness that you kind of miss when you exchange files with people all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mercenary kind of thing, and
Yeah.
that didn't interest me. I had tried that in other capacities, and that didn't interest me. I wanted people that were had the same concept aligned, because that's what you have to have. That said, this music, these opportunities, these things, I want that. And yes, I will do this work. I will rehearse, and it's standing in a room, looking at each other, playing music. That was crucial to my development when I was a kid, and it's crucial to what I is on the books to move forward with, because mercenary things, like I said, James, it's great because he's a he's a young guy. He's a kid. No, we were laughing. He gave me a hard time when I said that to him, and I don't mean that in an offhand way. He's so familiar with technology that's really great, and we can send him stuff, because the core thing is that with Dwayne and Mike and myself here, we're playing, and we're creating a bond, a musical bond that's finding its own version of the band, and that you can't do that. I mean, it's not like I'm like a shit hot session guitar player, and Mike and Dwayne are as well, and everything is easy. You show up in a room, you rehearse for 2 days, and then you go play Vakken. That's not how it is. So we get to play together, and it's a social aspect, like hockey is as well. It's a social aspect, and we play music together, and there's a ritual to it, and that is incredibly satisfying and incredibly important to me to at this time of my life. So
True. I mean, your first show back as a new band. I mean, outside what you just did this weekend with the rehearsals and everything. I mean, Headbang is opening at one of the bigger festivals that are out there. I mean, going to Italy, you're playing on a Saturday, you're playing later in the day. I mean, that's going to be amazing for you to get up there. I got a feeling that after that show, a lot of the other festivals are going to start knocking on your door to come and play for them because that's what they want. They want a lot of these classic 80s bands over there. So I think you're going to have a pretty busy schedule coming up after that one. This year's kind of booked, but I think next year you're going to have a lot of offers out there.
yeah, and the plan is, I mean, basically we do our thing, and if it's a thing that promoters think is going to put bums in their seats, then it's golden. We'll go wherever we can go and play because I am not unaware of the incredible gift that has been visited upon me, and I'm completely humbled. But I'm excited, I'm excited, and I'm excited. I'm humbled and I'm excited. And, I think that we have something to be at the same level as a lot of other bands and a catalog that has endured in its own way for like 4 decades. Is that crazy or what?
It is
18
crazy.
minutes of music, 18 minutes of music or 19 minutes of music.
And it's lasted all this time. That's what's incredible about, but that's also to the metalheads themselves because we're diehard. When we become fans of a band, especially back in the early days when all this scene was just kind of starting out, taking off, we stayed with those bands. I never stopped playing Witchkiller over the years. When I started this show, it gave me an opportunity to play for other people. But I never stopped playing it in my house. I never stopped playing the demo tapes that I had. I never stopped playing the album. We're like, we're loyal, I mean, to a fault. I mean, we'll back up any band for as long as they keep doing it. And I know you got the show coming up this summer in Italy. I mean, is there any chance that you might be able to have it professionally recorded? I know there'll be videotapes up of it and everything like that, but having it professionally recorded might be a nice little release over there.
Well, yeah. So just to clarify, the Headbangers is actually in Germany.
Oh, Germany. I'm sorry. Why do I keep saying
Yeah,
Italy?
that's okay. Yeah, because you're Italian.
Probably that might do it.
Well, it's kind of up to them if they do that. But sort of right now, I'm trying to organize all the peripheral stuff, like getting the T-shirts and the patches and all that stuff. That's the next thing to line up and if because I think if I'll talk with Thomas and see if they shoot something like that, or if there's they might shoot it, and then if you want the video, they charge you for it, which is fair because it's not cheap to have good equipment to do that. And I'm not saying they do or don't charge. I actually don't know the answer to that question, so I don't want to make an inference that is inappropriate. But so it would be great to be able to have that because, first of all, it's a great resume, and secondly, what a memory, right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if tears were flowing from my face, standing on a stage, hearing "Day of the Saxons" sung back to us. If I don't cry, I'll be amazed, to be honest with you. So yeah,
I'm sure that's going to happen. Is there anything going on between now and then, or is that going to be the next time you guys get together?
No, it's so funny. What's does Elliot Friedman say? So Elliot Friedman is a hockey journalist. He says, "We plan, God laughs." So we were actually approached to do a couple of other gigs before in Canada here. So we're just talking about that because you never know, right? Sometimes a groundswell picks up faster than you think it is, and all of a sudden people are calling you to do something. And so that's the key, to be prepared, which is another reason why, just having people drop in, mercenary players, that's not always the best thing because they can't always, they got another gig because they're mercenaries and that. So we're ready if there's if we get called for another show. So before that, so.
Oh man, that's going to be great. Kurt, I'm going to let you go in 2 minutes. I want to play some music. I got another guest waiting in the wings. Man, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I always have a good time. I know we're going to get so much out of Witchkiller coming up now. This is just the beginning of the revitalization of the band. So I know we're going to have a lot more coming, and we'll do this again real soon.
Oh, you're so kind, Mike. Thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to chat with you. And you take good care, and we'll talk soon.
Take care, my friend. It was good talking to you again. Bye bye.
Ready for the mayhem! Talk to you soon,
Kurt
buddy.
Phillips of Witchkiller. Take care, Kurt.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye. All right, let's get on Satan Laugh. All right, Witchkiller with Satan's Laugh. I want to play some new Aska right now. The band has a new record out. Actually came out last year, but Brave Words is re-releasing it digitally called Night Strike. We're going to play 1944 off that and then talk to George right after the song. much. This is Mike. How are you tonight?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure to have you on here. I'm more happy that we got new music from Aska.
Fantastic. You're playing something tonight?
I'm gonna play it all tonight if I can.
Great. That sounds like a winner.
Well, actually,
Sounds
we got
good.
the album. We got the album last year, technically, but it's coming out on Brave Words right now, which is kind of a big thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. It's a
Man,
wonderful thing.
I got to tell you, such a fan of the band going back to the beginning. It's when I think about Aska going back to like the '90s, the band came
Uh-huh.
out. Metal was still riding a high wave, and then it kind of crashed and burned a year or two later. But you guys trudged on, putting out one. I mean, you had 5 records out over that decade, or 4 records in the
Yeah,
EP. You guys kept doing it when people were turning their back on what we were listening to.
100%. They didn't care. They didn't want to, if it was metal, they didn't want to know. And
Yeah,
we were like, you know what? Fuck 'em. We're not doing this because for them. We're doing it for us because we do want to know. And we believe that there were people out there that were, holdouts like we were, like we're cockroaches just clinging on to the sewer, trying not to get washed away. We're like the rats, and we're like, no, we're not going without a fight. We're gonna stick this through whether somebody wants to hear it or not. You know,
absolutely.
we like
That's
it.
what I. That's what I always found amazing is that they said, grunge came out, it killed metal, but they were like, I'm just saying, 20 million metal fans on a Monday. Where did they all go on a Tuesday? We all didn't disappear. We just didn't have the access to the music we wanted as much anymore, but
E-
it was still out there.
Exactly. It was out there, and it was unfortunate that we saw so many of the classic acts trying to put out a grunge album. This is their grunge. Like Kiss had their Carnival of Souls, and Skid Row had whatever there was. Warrant did one. And you get all these different bands throughout all these different genres of metal were suddenly trying to join the bandwagon instead of sticking to their guns and just doing their thing, which
It's
kind of
it's
showed that
true.
for them it wasn't real. I mean, it was almost like, oh well, it's about the money at this point for us. And since
No,
we never caught that way, we were like, well, it's not about the money for us. We just about the love of genre, the love of style and music. And so
that's
we
right.
just never felt called to do that, to follow a bandwagon or jump on the latest trend, because what that is. That's very cyclical. It's cyclical. Every 10 years there's a new style. There's a new thing, and
Very
we
true.
certainly had no interest in being part of that.
Well, I'm glad you kept putting out the great music that you did. I mean, everybody kind of did an Anthrax. Anthrax went with every genre that came out, no matter what the fuck it was. They didn't care. They just went anywhere they can go. Rap metal, new metal, alternative metal,
Yeah,
grunge metal. Anthrax did everything to stay relevant. And then they come back, well, putting out a traditional metal record. That's what you should have been doing from day one. Priest went hair metal, then they
exactly.
went grunge metal. They all turned their back. And I always make fun of those issues. And somebody told me one day, goes, you know what? Those bands are like a business. It's a machine to them. They got to generate the revenue to keep the machine going. There's a lot of people on the payroll, and I sort of understood it. But as a fan, I was like, you kind of turned your back on the music that made you popular.
Absolutely. And not only that, but playing devil's advocate for the whole situation, they wanted to stay relevant, keep the money coming in, right? But did they actually manage to stay relevant? Because to me it seemed like once they abandoned the original fan base, they weren't tearing up the airwaves. They weren't
Yep.
garnering new fans going, oh wow, I really love the new direction for it. That didn't happen. You know, I think it was, they had a few people that were like, oh yeah, I'll continue to follow them, or some new people joined, but all the other people dropped off. So, and they weren't, you know, striking on a level like Soundgarden and Nirvana and Pearl Jam. Those bands that were actually from that era, they were doing it big, while the bands of our genre that were trying to follow suit seemed to, kind of be left behind. So it's like, man, at that point, you're not winning any new fans and you're not convincing your old fans. You might as well just stick with the old style. It almost seems disingenuous where 20 years later, oh, we're going to do an all traditional album now. Oh, you're a little late, pal. you know?
Absolutely. But you guys have kept
Yeah.
that tradition up, and I'm so happy because with Night Strike, I mean, you just gave us more of what we wanted, more of what we expected. I mean, the
Thank
first
you.
record in like almost a dozen years since Fire Eater came out. But people
Yeah.
think like, that was it. But, you had three records with Clovenhoof, a record with Banshee.
Yeah,
It's
two
like you
records.
just sat back.
Two with
Two
Banshee.
records. That's
Yeah,
right, two.
yeah,
But I was like,
yeah.
you didn't disappear. You just were busy with other things. And do you feel like when you look back on it now, I mean, Clovenhoof, you're not a part of no more. We'll talk about that later. Banshee, you still got going. A new
Huh?
record out about 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, do you feel like Aska always kind of took a back seat over the last decade to these other bands that you were part of that you just couldn't get around to it like you wanted to?
Yeah, for me, Aska always remained all important because it was my band.
Yeah.
Basically me, Keith Knight, Danny White. This was our baby. This was our thing. And but unfortunately, as circumstance came, we were always, like you said, we were at the tail end of the whole metal thing where when we came along, the metal wave had already crashed. It had already passed us by. Imagine those surfers out there waiting for the wave, and the wave comes and they all catch and they go, and then here we come, day late, dollar short, Johnny come lately. Hey, we want to ride the wave too. Well, fuck, the waves are over for the day, But there we were, still out there, treading water, hanging out with sharks swimming all around us, saying, "Well, we're gonna ride. We want to ride too," So we missed the wave, but it was it's born of love and born of passion and a true understanding and desire for this kind of music to be. It was always in our hearts, is what we wanted to do. So it was genuine, and again, it was our band. It was, like when I was with Omen and say Banshee and Cloven Hoof, these are bands that I joined that I was recruited into. With Aska, it was my band. It was something I formed, with the other guys, and it was always near and dear to me. But when let's say Headbangers Open Air, when Aska was offered to play that in Germany, at the same time they offered Omen to play that, and Omen, took the advance money that they were sent for flights or whatever, spent it, and then Kenny Powell tells the promoter, he tells Jurgen, he goes, "Hey, sorry man, I don't have the money. A hurricane hit my house. I'm like, well, Omen's not going to be able to go." And so, half of Aska was in Omen. So they go, "Well, you know what? Aska's booked for that show. Why don't you take half of, already half the flights you paid for Aska? Why don't you take that half, the other half of the money, pay for the other two guys in Omen, and you guys go ahead and come out anyway. And we can just have Aska another year." So that was the kind of thing we kept running into. The bands that we would join, as would end up taking the priority. People want, because they knew those bands, they were more established. Omen were like darlings in the metal underground world, especially in Europe. They get the treat, and we'd be the dog left over there starving and begging and whining. So it was easy. At the time, I was like, I remember because Danny White from Aska was also in Omen with me.
Yep.
He'd actually played in the band prior to me joining. But so I was like, man, this really sucks. We're getting our golden ticket taken away so that Omen can go again. They've been a million times, But so on the one hand, that was my feeling, was this really sucks. On the other hand, well, I am in the band. I can raise hell all I want, or I can just go with the program and go and perform and have a good time, which is what we did. And so Aska got the short shrift, and unfortunately that happened entirely too much, and because we were never established in the way those bands were, always other priorities came first. Everybody, as we got older, people got married, people had children. We were working jobs, we were doing this, we were doing that. And so the band there's no way it could get our full attention as if we'd been on a level with Omen and Cloven Hoof or, Banshee, whatever. So, we just did what we had to do. And, but never once did we put the band to bed. Did we say, okay, we're going to call it a day. We missed the wave. Let's just call it. No, because we knew, when we record these records, we listen back and we go, wow, that was amazing. That was really good. That's good stuff. We got something going here with this band. Whether the rest of the world knows it or not, we don't care. Because we were making ourselves very happy playing a music that you really couldn't hear. I mean, you remember there was a time in the 90s and early 2000s where you could not go out to the store and buy a new traditional heavy metal album.
Yeah.
You know, they were non-existent. They were far and few between. And everything, the big push was on what was happening now. You know, the grunge, the alternative. You know, one of my bands, I play in a cover band, just for fun around here in Dallas, Fort Worth. You know, or actually around Texas. But it's, you know, for fun and extra money and spending money and good times. And one of the guys is the drummer from one of those bands that was, you know, on MTV and making a little splash back in the day, a band called Tripping Daisy. You know, he was in the alternative movement. That's what was in. It wasn't us. You know, it wasn't that stuff. But yet, you know, we managed to maintain our presence in this town and still drew crowds in our area that rivaled anything they were doing. And then here we are, fast forward, you know, 20, 30 years, 25 years, and we're playing in a band together. You know, the drummer
incredible.
and I, Brian Wakeland. Yeah, so, I mean,
great.
you got the best of Dallas Fort Worth grunge alternative with the best of Dallas Fort Worth power metal.
Hey,
Power
whatever
traditional
works.
metal.
Whatever works and
Right.
having fun doing is all that matters. But, you know, that's got to be disappointing, maybe a little heartbreaking. Like, as the band moves on, like, now you're in the 2000s, and a band like Omen, I mean, listen, you know, I've heard 1,000,001 stories about Kenny Powell. I think I've interviewed about 2,000 people over the last 20 years, and 1,300 of them were in Omen at one point or another. They've all had something to say about Kenny. And it kind of bases on, like, the story you just told about him spending the money and shit like that, too. But you got to, you know,
man.
these festivals come out, and they want to bring back the 80s again. So they're looking for all these bands from the 80s to reunite. But yeah, you got all these bands that have been around almost from the same amount of time that just kind of got caught in that little era over that little time zone.
The Twilight
Working
Zone.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone. And
Right.
you can't get a break and get on there when you're more reliable. Your music is 10 times better than most of those bands they were trying to reunite and get back together. And you can't get a break like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll tell you, fortunately, we did get a lot of breaks. If you look at, I mean, there's a shirt we put out, I can't remember what year, but we called it it was our, I don't remember what it was, but on the back of the shirt, we had a listing. We had the logos for every festival we played in the last 12 months. And there was all kinds of stuff. There was Warriors of Metal. There was Keep It True. There was Headbangers Open Air. There was Pathfinder Metal Fest. There was, just Rocklahoma. I mean, all these big, worthwhile festivals, Sword Brothers. And they were all listed on the shirt. And we're like, look, here we are, obscure little band from Texas, and we played all these places around the world. We'd actually, thank goodness, and I think part of what helped keep us together was that we'd actually managed to outperform live most of the bands that we looked up to. Because at last time when we were looking at it, because of our connections with the USO, DOD, all that stuff, the military, when we were playing shows for, we added up all the places we've been to, all the countries we've been to on tour, and we were looking at 50-something countries. I've played more international locations with Aska than I ever did as a member of Omen or Cloven Hoof. I mean, I did a lot of Europe with Omen. I did a lot of Europe with Cloven Hoof. But I'll tell you what, I did Asia, all over Asia. I did Africa. I did the African continent. I did the Caribbean. I did I played places as crazy as the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates. We did Guantanamo Bay and Cuba. We did all those places with Aska, which is like, most people be like, what? You played where with Aska? Yeah, and we have the photos and the all the contracts and everything to prove it, and the fans as well, because we still have fans that show up to our shows and go, hey, I saw you guys in Bosnia last I think about 2-3 weekends ago. Aska did a show in Louisville, Texas, and in the audience was a guy that had seen us in Bosnia. Hadn't seen us since '97, I believe it was. And here he was at the show. Guys, oh my God, I can't believe I saw you in Bosnia. I was stationed at camp, whatever it was, and blah, 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 blah. And it was incredible. We still run into guys like that. And it's, it's living proof that we actually were in these places. And, these human beings saw us there exist. This guy on Facebook runs a place called Metalholics, whatever, all these Facebook groups. It's a guy we met in South Korea when we were out there on tour. So we've done some places that many, and I'd say even most bands, don't get to experience or don't get to go to. And yet here we are, as obscure as the day we were born. as underground as as could be, But we don't cry about it. We just keep on rolling, And now today, thankfully, with the help of Brave Words, who seems to really believe in us, and are like, wow, you guys have done all this with not much support over the years. We think we can help you with that, And like I've said in previous interviews, when they came knocking, we answered that door,
Yeah.
It's,
You have to. You can't pass up any opportunity these days.
Yeah. And, their reputation preceded them, And they were, when they put the label together, they grabbed bands like Lillian Axe, Crimson Glory, these legacy acts that we were all fans of, and we're like, they want us on their roster? Absolutely, man. Who are we to say no?
Absolutely. So true. But Aska is a legacy act themselves now. I mean, 1990, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. First record in 91, absolutely, yeah. It's been a minute. It's been a minute, and here we are, still trucking. And I think with our best album to date, we're 7 albums in, and I think that, in my opinion, Night Strike is our finest moment yet.
I have to agree with you. I mean, you think because of the time off between records gave you more time to really? I mean, when did you guys actually sit down to get started writing this record? I mean, was it? I know we had COVID for a couple of years. That kind of screwed things up for a lot of people. But when did you actually get down to the writing for this record?
Believe it or not, it was during COVID. COVID was a mixed blessing for Aska, because or for me as a musician, because I had all kinds of things lined up with Coleman Hook. We had cruise ship tours. We had shows, we had bookings, we had tours, we had Spanish tours, Portuguese. We had all kinds of stuff lined up to go do. And then COVID hits, and we're thinking, it'll be over in a month. It'll be over in a few weeks, right? And then a month turned to 2, 2 turned to 4, 4 turned to 8. And so, we're a year in. It's a year and a half. Now, 1 month after COVID hit, we released my second album with Clover Hoof, which is Age of Steel. And we figured this will be over soon, and we'll get right back on schedule, and we can continue on. But as 1 year turns a year and a half, and 2, and nothing doing, right? Nothing's changing. Everything's in the world's in lockdown. It was even stricter overseas than it was here. I'm from Texas, so we were a little more lax here with our COVID restrictions. But all over the U.S., it was a different story in many places. I think in New York it was pretty tough, wasn't it?
New York was horrible, but I live in the most liberal state in the friggin' world, the most disgusting state run by the most disgusting people you can imagine. I don't want to talk politics, but they're very left-leaning liberals here, and I'm just on the other side of the spectrum, so I'm in the wrong place. It's just it was nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was. Imagine this: we've got 2 very liberal states, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. So and then, kind of a country in between was kind of cool. We had less restrictions, but many places had the same. Well, imagine that times 10, because that's how Europe was. You needed your vaccine passes to travel. You couldn't go anywhere. You were locked down. People would come by your house and check to see if you were home. Okay, you didn't go to work today. You didn't go. They locked, no school, no nothing. Everybody's doing video school, video. It was insane. So, that kind of put the kibosh on all these touring plans and all these other plans that we had. I still recorded an album, my third album with Clover Hoof during that period. So we put one out at the beginning of COVID and put one out towards the end of COVID, which was Time Assassin. Well, during that same time, because we were locked down, here we are at home. There's no shows, no touring, no anything. We finally had time to sit the Aska boys down, get our asses in the studio, and start working on and finishing up songs that we've been we've kind of been writing all along, or had in the bag, or just wanted to get together and work on a new record. And we did it right in the middle of COVID, and thank God for that in a way, because it allowed us to sit down with each other, breathe, and put out the best album, like I said, in my opinion, of our band's career. And and we did it in fine form. We made sure we had 10 solid winners. We didn't want a week. It's like, okay, we got a couple good ones. Like so many bands do, right? They get 2, 3 good songs and an album full of filler. And, it's like an Oreo, right? You got the top part of the cookie, the middle part of the cookie, and then the middle is all lard with sugar in it. And so we're like, no. We're going to make sure that this album is strong, top to bottom. And we really enjoy every song. We brought back Keith Knight on the vocals for a song. He sings From Out of the Sky. We gave it the due and the attention that we felt that we could, muster. Did it ourselves, hunkered down in a room. If you go to YouTube and pull up the Aska Together video, it's a song called Together from the new album. It basically shows you the process. That video was actually footage taken from. We had cameras all throughout the studio, and we recorded ourselves jamming, playing, goofing off, all the things that we did while we were recording the album, and in particular that song, and just put it out in a video. That kind of gives you a fly-on-the-wall glimpse of how and what we did to make that record. And so as much as COVID sucked, right? And it did suck. But as much as it did, it allowed us the time to get together and whip the record out. And we're very happy to have done so because it kind of puts us back on the map, where people were kind of, Aska together. Aren't they finished? Didn't they break up? No, sir. Here we are still, and here's the new album. Suck on this one.
Yeah. I never ever once thought the band broke up. I know they had other things going on. That's why, there was a lack of music in between it. And the COVID thing, took away 3-4 years for most people in between there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here in New York eating in a friggin' shed in the middle of the street, in 10-degree weather. And I'm watching people in Miami dancing in a nightclub. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in the wrong state. I got to get the hell out of here, But that's just the way it is. But, I remember 10 years ago, Lee from Cloverleaf is a dear friend of mine, and when you guys when you parted ways with the band, I said why? I was like, why? When I first heard you were joined, man, I was like, how is this going to work? It's such a a new wave of British heavy metal, so British band. How's it going to work with American Singer? Then the first record came out, I was like, holy shit! And then the next one and the next one, I was like, how did this end? How did this possibly end? I mean, I thought the band was at its most creative, and just riding a wave with those 3 records.
It really was. We were, shooting and spitting fire every time we were like, imagine a baseball player getting up to the mound and the pitcher throws it and we hit that ball and fire comes out of the ball as it blazes its way through the stadium. That's how we felt. I mean, the albums were strong. Everybody loved everybody. There was no bad feeling. It was very brotherly, very positive, But there's a promoter in Germany who doesn't like me, and this guy did it. He didn't want me on to come and play his festival. Now, when I've been in, when I joined Cloverleaf, because of me, I hooked up Cloverleaf with my agent, and we went and did Cloverleaf, in the 40, 50 years, however long Cloverleaf's been around, since the late 70s, early 80s. And I was a fan from the get-go. From album 1, I was a Cloverleaf fan. But when we went out, we brought Cloverleaf to the USA. That was made possible, through me and Dane, our contacts here in the U.S. And we got the band to the States. We toured the U.S. We toured Canada, and we didn't do it once. We did it twice, and we had a third one lined up. And of course, COVID ruined all that. But we did probably close to 60 shows throughout the U.S. and Canada, all over the USA, coast to coast, from New York to California, Texas, all the way up into Canada. We had a blast and we had a great time. And when we played Frost and Fire Fest in California, Ventura, California, which is a festival put on by the fantastic band Siri Thungal, that promoter was there, that guy that doesn't like me in Germany, and I went and talked to the guy. Lee knew all about it. I told him, I said, look, dude, this guy doesn't like me. He's got a grudge from when I was at home, and I don't know what his issue is. It might be something else, because I'd heard several stories of why he was mad at me. I'd also heard several stories of many other American bands that he's mad at in his band over the years. White Wizard, Age of Steel, Man of War. There's a list of bands that the guy just doesn't like and won't book. Well, I was persona non grata with this guy. Lee knew about it. I told him this guy doesn't like me. I tried everything to do to make peace with this guy. I never even had beef with the dude. I think he's mad because of the way when I left Omen. I don't think he liked the way it went down, or I don't know what the deal is. But I've actually been friends with the guy prior. We'd always we had no issue, and he just decided he didn't want me on the bill. So at Frost and Fire, I took Lee with me. I said, "Look, there he is. Let's go talk to him. I'm gonna watch me. You can watch me bury the hatchet with this guy. I'm gonna extend my hand of friendship. I'm gonna put out the olive branch. We're metal. We're supposed to be metal brotherhood. We're supposed to, move this music forward. We're limited numbers. Let's, why have this grudge and this stupidity? I mean, bands fight all the time. Bands have falling outs all the time. People break up in bands all the time. People leave. Bad words are spoken, but then it's over and people move on, right? And that's how I felt with Omen. It was, whatever beef we had, it was over. We moved on. It'd been 10 years at this point. It'd been 10 years since I had been in Omen. I went up to the guy, tried to talk to him. He didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to shake my hand. He said, I came to this festival to watch the show, not to talk politics with you, George. I said, okay, all right. Well, man, dude, I'm just extending my hand of friendship. Let's bury the hatchet. There's no reason for us to be fighting or have, being a bad. There's no reason for you to be mad at me, dude. We're both heavy metal. We want. Yeah, that's all right. So the guy came to our next show. He came all the way from California to Arizona. We were playing with Vicious Rumors. He came in, watched the Vicious Rumors set. And as soon as Club Wolf got on stage, we got ready to play. Dude made a big production of standing up and walking out of the venue. So
wow.
Okay, hey, dude, so that was that. His name was Ollie. Ollie Weinheimer.
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, guy from Keep It True. He runs that festival and some others. I don't have any beef with that guy, but he's clearly got beef with me. Whatever, can't help it. But so the problem was, Cloverleaf knew, Lee Payne. I mean, when we say Cloverleaf, really, who are we talking about? We're talking about Lee because he's like, Kenny with Omen. Lee's the one holdout. The guy's been there through, thick and thin. He's been from day one to present. Yeah. So Lee knew my issues with the guy. He knew that the guy had issues with me, and he refused. He said, Cloverleaf can play my festival anytime, but not with George. And you can't bring George. You can't. I won't pay to fly him. You can't. He's not welcome on my stage. So Lee decided he was going to do the show, and I told him, I said, Lee, I don't think it's cool for you to go do a show for a guy that completely hates me. I'm in your band. We get along well. Everything's great. And it's kind of like, it's almost like you're well, let me continue the story, and then I'll give you my analogy, right? Lee said, well, it was COVID had just lifted. He hadn't played. I understand from his point, he wanted to get out and play. He had a nice opportunity to do a show, and he wanted to go out and do it. But I'm like, dude, we could do a million other. There's a lot of other shows we could go play. But I want to do this one. They're honoring the British, however many years of British heavy metal and blah blah blah. And I go, okay, man, dude, that guy hates me. He doesn't like me. So if you do, I'm not saying I'm going to quit the band, but if you do it, clearly that's going to create a wedge. It's going to create a wedge. And I don't know how I'm going to react, quite frankly. I don't know. It might piss me off to the point where I just don't want to play with the band anymore. Or it might make me feel like, how could you do that, man? I thought we were friends. I thought we were band members. Where's the brotherhood, Now, why would you go, this guy that hates me doesn't want me to play a show? And plus, what kind of a band allows a promoter to dictate to them who can be in the band or not? Yeah. I mean, if a guy told me that, if a guy said, hey, man, you can come and play the show with Aska, but Keith and I can't be there. I tell him where to head. I tell him where to head and what to suck. I mean, I'd be like, no, dude, that's not how men do it. I'm sorry, and I guess we just won't play your festival because, this is my band member. I'm going to stand by my band guy. Yeah. And that's what I expected from Lee, and I didn't get from him, so I quit. I left the band.
That's a shame.
Yeah. I mean, I just, at some point you got to stand up for yourself and draw a line, and when a guy's trying to, cancel you and keep you from being part of his thing for whatever reason. I mean, it could be political. It could be anything. But I don't think it's right to do to somebody, and you can do it to somebody, but then that guy's band member should stand with the band guy. Unless what the band guy did was something egregious. Like, it wasn't like Carl Logan. I didn't do anything. I wasn't, downloading keyboard or anything. If that were the case, then I could see why the band would say, fuck George, But in my case, it was just the guy didn't like me because I left home or because he didn't like my personality or he didn't like my politics or, whatever. I mean, there's 50 different reasons I've heard. None of them good. None of them worthy of a cancellation. Or none of them worthy to tell some band they can't play a festival. And he told that to Banshee. Oh, sorry, you can't play here. Banshee stood by me. He said that to Aska. Aska stood by me. Yeah. He said that to, any band that I've been in, he said to those bands stood by me. Cloven Hoof, after giving him Lee Payne 3 of the greatest albums of his catalog. I'm not saying they're the best. I'm not saying they're better than anything that came before. But I'm saying these albums, the 3 albums I gave Cloven Hoof, were worthy of the mantle of the title Cloven Hoof.
Absolutely.
They were just, they were definitely some of the crown jewels. And I think we did a great job. We worked well together. Our creative juices really melded well. I still think they do, and I have no animosity towards Lee Payne. I still consider him a friend. I like the guy, but I think he did me wrong by accepting that offer. We could have gone and played anything else. And Lee's like, man, bro, you're gonna quit for one show. I said, it's not I'm quitting for one show, Lee. It's not the one show. It's that guy. He has made it clear. He's put his foot down. He doesn't want me anywhere on anything to do with him. And so why would you go do a show for him? It's like a fuck you to me. Who's done more for you, me or him? Here's the irony. Here's one of the deep ironies, Mike. I met Lee Payne at all these festivals at Keep It True. We met backstage at Keep It True with Aska and Cloven Hoof were playing back-to-back, one after the other at that show. That's where we met. That's how our friendship formed. I was a fan of the band already. I brought all my CDs for him to sign. So, you Lee Payne, Cloven Hoof, oh my God, I'm a big fan. Here, we sign this shit. And from there, he asked me to sing some demos, and he asked me and other members of Aska to do a fill-in as Sword Brother a few months later or the following year, and before you know it, I'm in the band. So isn't that the irony of ironies? We met at that festival, and we
that
split
festival
up.
Ended it for you too. Yeah.
And the festival split up our session. Now, I don't hate Lee. I don't hate Cloven Hoof. I'm friends with all those guys to this day. Except maybe some of the whoever's new that has joined that I haven't met or I don't know. I'm friends with Harry. I know Harry. So there's no bad blood. I wish him nothing but the best, all the success in the world. But it's not for me. I want my band members to be like the Aska guys, like the Banshee guys, like the Legion of the Dog guys, another band I'm in with Scott Dowler of Dangerous Toys. I want them to be like those guys that will stand with me, stand beside me, and support their singer, support their frontman, their vocalist, who has done so much for the band to further the band, who brought the band to the U.S. for its first tours in 40 years, who brought the band to Canada for its first tours in 40 years. Not to be, the first show that comes along, just get left on on the carpet. Well, you stay home. It's one gig. We'll be all right. We'll do it without you. I got a lot of pride, brother. Imagine this. You're talking to a guy that said, fuck alternative, fuck grunge. We're going to stick with traditional metal. I don't care what. And you're going to take a guy with that attitude and tell him, we're going to go play a show for a guy that hates you. But you'll be fine, man. You can join us on the next ones. No, dude.
Yeah, don't work like that. Yeah. Yeah,
it doesn't work like that. And not for a guy like me. Not for a guy that sticks, that's true, that's loyal to music stuff. Dude, I got into Kiss when I was a little kid, and they they put out bad albums. They betrayed the fans with giving the makeup to other guys, and I'm still a Kiss fan. I stood by them thick and thin. And this music style that I play, this traditional metal, I stuck by it thick and thin through different genres, different styles. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stick with it. That's just the kind of guy I am. I'm loyal to a fault, right? When I like something, when I love something, I stick with it all the way. And so when I see a disloyalty expressed towards me, who's been nothing but loyal to this band, I have no choice but to say, you know what? Nah, it's not for me then. It's not for me. I give loyalty, I expect it back.
I get that, but that promoter also, he's done so many stupid things like that, in my opinion, with a lot of bands.
He really has. A
And
lot.
it boggles my mind. I mean, yeah, look, I know it's a pretty big festival. I mean, it's not Vakken, it's not, the biggest thing in the world, but
No.
everybody wants to go there and be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's one show, one weekend a month for all year. And like I
Yeah.
had Mantis from Venom on my show about a year or so ago, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
why Venom Inc? Why would you want to go and do Venom Inc? You guys were doing it as Empire of Evil, and the music was the same music. Why would you want to change the name? When you moved away from Venom, because it wasn't us. It was the promoter from the Keep It True Festival. He presented it to us, and we were gonna go play as Empire of Evil. Said it'd be great if you could do it as Venom, because he probably couldn't get Venom on the festival, which is just Kronos
Yeah.
these days. And he put that whole thing
Right.
together, and they went along with it. Now all these years later,
Yeah.
Abaddon's gone, Mantis is gone. It's just Tony Dolan. He did the same thing
Yeah.
with a lot of New York bands, like these local bands that were big in the 80s over here, Cities and Hades. He tried to get them to
Yeah.
come over, and the bands wind up having issues before they got there. And then tells the singer, just come over here and we'll get a band together around you to play. And the guy's like, that's not my band. I don't want to do that. Those guys were loyal to the guys that they just
Exactly.
fought with at the same time. So I think in a
Yeah.
way you're kind of hurting metal by doing that more than helping it.
Absolutely. It's manufactured. It's like a boy band. We're not
Yeah.
Menudo. We're metal people. And
Yeah.
as metal people, we have a lot of, we're proud, and we've got a lot of pride. We've got a lot of, we're not a pop band that you can just throw together and, just come on in and we'll put these guys will dance in the background. And no, dude, this is a genre of music that prides itself on being hard, heavy, lean, and mean, and you can't, he manufactures these bands, puts together these events, and it's all to sell tickets. And it feeds his megalomania. And then he ends up having these beefs with the entertainment, with the acts themselves, man. Instead of nurturing, I'm a guy. Look how many bands I've been recruited by Cloven Hoof, by Omen, by Banshee, by these legacy acts. I mean, Aska. You don't want. Why would you want to make bad blood with a guy like that? A guy that clearly is true metal, is in demand. The bands want singing. I mean, dude, I was Jack Starr tried to recruit me to sing for them. I came real close to singing on the Jack Starr album. I
That
came
would have been
close
great.
to singing for others. So I was with Emerald, from Switzerland. So many instances. Again, like I said, Legion of the Dog with Scott Gallagher of Dangerous Toys. I mean, I'm not a slouch musician. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but what I do it well, and I've done it for enough years now to know it's like hiring a master plumber versus a rookie. You're gonna get the master plumber comes with some contacts and some experience and some know-how and some that the rookie's not gonna have, right? And so you would think a promoter worth his salt would try to nurture an artist like that. If you really cared for heavy metal music, you would nurture that, not try to manufacture bands and bring back an old band from the 80s because it's got more cachet, more name pool, and then play into these little petty rivalries and grievances with existing bands, I can't tell you how many, when I came public with what was going on, I cannot tell you how many other bands said, oh, yeah, man, dude, that guy's just full of his own fucking hot air. He's got issues with this band, that band, that band, that band. And I'm like, dude, I try to make peace with the dude. When you come up to a man, you go to his face, you try to do a spray action, let's shake hands, let's move beyond this. This was never about you. Nobody ever involved you in it. Why are you taking it personal? Why? And he couldn't answer. He didn't want to answer. He'd rather throw his weight around, which is quite substantial, let's say. You want to throw that around and show everybody who's boss, and everyone will still kiss my ass. I don't care. Fuck you, George. It's what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I just move on, keep making my music. I didn't get into this music to play footsies or kiss ass with any promoters. I don't care where they're from, who they are. That's not why I got into the music. And I play ball. I play by the rules. I'm a nice guy. I listen to what's said, but I'm also not a guy you can just go, shit on or piss on or, treat like I'm some peon, because I'm not. I'm not. So it was unfortunate what happened with Hoof. I love the band. I love my time in it. I love the albums I do with the band. I love the guys in the band. But I didn't like the way that I was so easily dismissed to go do a show.
Yeah, I
by
can
the same
understand
token, he
that.
said, here's the thing. Lee tells me it was just one show, George. Just one show, man. And I said, well, Lee, I say the same thing to you. It was just one show. You couldn't just pass on that one show, you know. So to maintain our peace, to show me that you care about me as a member, as a brother, as part of your band, as a guy that's comes, you know. So I mean, it's just the same. So that was that. That's how I ended. And I got no bad blood there. I love the band. I love the guys. We still talk. You know, me and Lee, we still talk. But
Yeah.
you know, it just
Well, Danny was
I
there with you too. You and Danny have been like partners
yeah,
in crime for a long time now.
absolutely. Danny, I play with Danny in Omen. I play with Danny in Aska. I play with Danny in Clovis.
Yeah.
And you know, who knows? There may be other bands. But yeah, we're good friends. He was when the minute Danny joined Aska, it was almost like a brother from another mother type of situation.
Yeah.
And he's been there ever since. You know, and he's a solid player. He's a solid musician. And like I've told Danny, the Aska gig is yours until the day you don't want it anymore. You know, you can go to sleep at night secure, knowing that I'm not looking for anybody. I'm not searching for anyone behind your back. I'm not gonna, because a lot of those games get played in this industry, unfortunately.
Hell yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, every guy in this band, your spot is secure, and that's just how I roll. I mean, I'm a strong believer of the whole do unto others,
That's a
especially in
good
the
thing to believe in.
music, when it comes to music. Yeah. Especially
Well,
when it comes to music, in the music world, do unto others as you haven't done unto you,
well, the music business is like the Real Housewives of whatever on those TV shows. I mean, there's a lot of backstab and a lot of shit that goes on
Oh
in
yeah.
there, and you don't want
Oh
that
yeah.
within your own band. You know what I mean? You don't want that happening in your
Yeah.
own band. That's where you
No,
want your
not at
peace to
all.
come from. But I mean, what is like the
Right.
harshest lesson that you think you've learned over the last like 30 something years of being in a band?
The harshest was the lessons with Kenny Powell, which was when Omen ended, right? Kenny, when we decided, Kenny wasn't calling me back. We were supposed to be working on an album. I was at his house working on a song when I heard he accidentally pulled up somebody else's vocals, and it was the vocals of the guy he had originally wanted in the band who wasn't available at the time, a gentleman by the name of Matt Story. And again, friend of mine, a guy I know, I like the guy, no issues. But I said, Kenny, whose vocals are that? He goes, oh, that's me singing there. I go, well, if that's you, what do you need me for? If you can sing that well, why do you need a singer? Why don't you just go out as a three-piece? You make more money. And
Yeah.
he stuck to his guns. He stuck to the lie. It was like, I did not have sex with that woman. I don't, even though everybody, the whole world knew that there were cigars in it. But so he stuck to the lie. He insisted that it was him on the vocal, and I knew, something's up here. Yeah, I already knew. And when I went home that day, every time I called him, hey, are you wanting to record today? I'm available. I'm available for recording. He would never return my calls. He would never answer me. He would never respond to me. So I said, I finally sent him an email and said, dude, I mean, I can see what's going on. If you don't want to respond to me, or you don't want to even give me the courtesy of a return email or phone call when I'm asking you and letting you know I'm available to record, then, I'm going to just go ahead and make an announcement that I've left the band and everything. And then he responded to me, right? When I told him I was going to announce that I had left the band, he responded to me. He goes, oh, no, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm working with Matt now, and yeah, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do is part ways with you. I don't really want to, but he's my bro, he's my friend, he's my dealer, he's whatever. And I don't, I don't want to stop working with you. You're a great guy, but he's my buddy, and I'm just gonna go in that direction. I said, no problem. So we'll just end it. We've parted amicably. Please don't say anything negative about me. I won't say anything negative about you, and that'll be that. And that's what we agreed to, and that was it. Moved on, this and that. A few months later, here comes an interview there was a Greek release of there was old demos, there's some a live recording of a show with J.D. Kimball. I think it's called Into the Arena.
Yeah.
It was released, and the paperwork inside, there was an insert sheet, and the insert said, "Oh yeah, my other singer, the guy I had he was too busy doing everything except Omen. He wouldn't give me his full time and cooperation, so I had to get rid of him." And I go, "Really, bro? I was calling you every day to see if I could come record and to see when you wanted to record." So he came up with a story. Right? I guess you asked what my lesson was. My lesson was I should have just left it there. Should have left it alone. Let him tell his lie. Let him tell his story, and let people see by virtue of my hard work and the albums that I was releasing, since and at the time, and because since that time, right? Because he basically said I wasn't a dedicated singer, I wasn't dedicated to the band, and since that time, I've released 2 Aska records, 2 Banshee records, 3 Cloverhoof records. I've appeared on 2 Emerald records, and done all manner of guest appearances with all other bands, right? And on the other side of the scale, there was 1 Omen record. They released Hammer Damage. That was it.
Yeah,
Kevin, so I've got
Gucci.
Yeah, Kevin was on that record, and they had 1 record, and that's it. Maybe a single or something else. But so I've got almost 10 records to my name since that time, and he had 1 record. I should have just let my body of work since that time speak for itself. My releases speak for themselves instead of getting into war of words. Because I responded. I went in there and I said, Kenny Powell's lying. This is bullshit. I didn't leave the band because of this. I left the band because, or we split up. He fired me because of this. He wanted his other guy in there. And then he fired him in short order. And then Kevin came back in, replaced Matt, and then they were together for a year or 2. They put a hammer down, and then he fired him. And then he got another, so it's been, right? So I should have just let, the actions, I've always been a believer also in the whole actions speak louder than words, right? Your work ethic will speak for itself. And unfortunately, I got into a mudslinging thing with the guy. And that's when, next thing you know, Ollie didn't want to book me anymore. And the doors that had been open to me were no longer. And bands all still wanted me. But see some of these promoters that were, in Kenny's back pocket or really loved Kenny or loved his band, which I'm a huge Omen fan. I love those first 3 records. They're big records in my metal
just those
collection.
first 3.
The first 3 in the EP, the J.D. Kimball stuff. I love those, and beyond that, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. So I won't, but I love those first 3 in the EP. And I actually got to sing on an Omen track that was released on the Bloodsteel Vengeance release, which is a compilation. There was a demo track that I did for a song called Blood on the Water. And even though I sang some other stuff, he erased it all. He never put it out. He released that 1 song, and that was my swan song with Omen. I was in there for 3 years. That was that. So that was that was the harshest lesson. I should have not said anything against Kenny, and just let my actions, my work ethic speak for itself, and his speak for him. Because I, having been in that band for 3 years, the driving force of Omen was not Kenny Powell. It was J.D. Kimball. J.D. Kimball is what made those songs great. It was the chemistry between J.D. and Kenny. Them together, that's what made Omen. And that was proven because with the results after J.D.'s passing, Omen never again reached those heights. And even though they put out a few, there was Reopening the Gates, there was Eternal Black Dawn, there was Hammer Damage, there were those albums, but they never again touched the heights that they did with J.D. Kimball.
No, not at all.
And that was one of the big reasons why Kenny wanted to disassociate himself with music, was because when he was wanting to record, he wanted to do it at home. I said, Kenny, let's do this professionally. Let's take this to a real studio, or get back with Bill Matoyer and let him do it, like you guys did those first 3 records, because people are expecting a big record from Omen. And what we're giving them, recorded in your back bedroom is not it, dude. This is not it. I was brutally honest with the guy. He didn't want to hear that. You know, oh
Well,
no,
it
this will
shows
be
on
fine. This will be fine.
it shows on Hammer Damage. If you listen to the production of that record, it shows clearly on that record.
It shows very clearly. It sounded like the drums were recorded with a Casio keyboard. It was horrible. And Mike, I could show you the demos of what we had with Hammer Damage before Kenny decided to do it all in his own studio. When we recorded some of the pieces with Knight Recording, which was Keith Knight of Aska, it was his studio. I could show you, I could play you the tracks, the bass tracks. The demos sounded far superior to what that album ended up sounding like. But, you know, it's his band. He calls the shots. You know, what are you going to do? I tried to be honest with the guy. He didn't like honesty. He wanted to do it. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. And unfortunately, it was not up to the legacy's name. It wasn't up to the Omen's legacy's name. You know, or what people would expect from a band like Omen. You know, in modern times. You know.
Who would have known that he was held in such high regard by the? I mean, you know, like I said, Omen was a great band. We go back to you know, all the stuff he's done before that too. I mean, I love that stuff, but to take one man who really was very inactive for most of the last 25 or 30 years, when you think about it, and hold him in such high regard to music. I mean, if he could only look back now and see the breadth of life you bred into Banshee and Cloverhoof when you played with them, he's got to be saying to himself, you know, that could have been me. That could have been me.
It could have been. And you know what? It doesn't matter because at this point, Omen is a nostalgia act. I mean, people go, they love it because of those first three records. They go out there to play. Kenny kind of just, you know, fumbles his way through that stuff, whatever, and people cheer anyway because Omen is legendary in Europe. They are a legend, especially in Germany and Greece. They are a legendary band. People love them because they have a lot of love and heart for those first three records, as I do. I love those first three records. And if I were to see Omen play the songs from those first three records, I would love it too, just because, wow, somebody's playing music from those first three albums. It's Omen. Wow, it's not really Omen, but it's Omen. You know, and unfortunately, that never translated to the U.S. That was never the case here. You know, they were never beloved in America like they are in Europe. And, you know, it is what it is. I mean, that's unfortunately, but in Europe, Omen is the American Iron Maiden, you know. So the people, you know, go on, they get the prime bookings, they get great shows, and, you know, as flaky as Kenny is, he'll take the money, he'll blow it, he'll spend it, he'll tell stories. Oh, the hurricane destroyed my house, you know, blew away my house. This could be, you know, the farthest thing from the truth, but they don't care, and they know it, but they still don't. They'll pretend it's true and still book them next year because they know that it's a good name and a good draw on their show poster, on their lineup. It looks good to have them. Look at Hell's Heroes 4 here in the U.S. had Omen twice. They played twice on this festival weekend.
Yeah,
you know,
5 days. They've done 5 of them, I think. There's only been 5 festivals.
Yeah. Well, is it 5? Okay. Well, yeah. Hell's Heroes 5.
I think it's 5, maybe 6. I don't even know.
Well, I know they played last year. They played this year twice. So at this year's festival, they played twice. So, you know, go figure. You know.
I don't know if it's a generational thing because, like, you know, if I hear Omen's playing, I'm like, well, you know, if J.D. Kimball was in that, I'd want to go see it because, you know, he was the voice of the band. You know, Kenny was a guitar player. He wrote a lot of the songs. He was the voice. But today you got these kids they're happy to go see a band that has no original members in it. You got Riot. You know, I love Riot, but Riot has no original members in there. And they go and they sing. They think the scene, you know, the Red Forest and or the Guy Speranza version of it. It's not. It's just completely different. But they don't seem to care anymore. So is metal going to turn into like the next pop thing where bands like Foreigner and all these other bands just keep playing with no original members, like the 1950s or 60s doo-wop bands? They do these doo-wop shows. There's no original members in those bands. If they would have been in their 90s by now, but they go out and then they pack them in. So is metal turning into that thing next where people don't care who's in the band as long as they can hear the music?
Maybe so. But I'll tell you, in Riot's defense, they renamed it Riot 5, and they're cranking out great albums. And some of the band members were there 20, 30 years, you know. Donnie Van Stavern's been there since, I think he joined on the Born in America album. And then he played on Thunder Steel. Yeah, so he's been a lot. So he's kind of earned his credentials. He's been there a long time. So and they're making great music. So I can't, but on the flip, you know, so a band like Riot, I would look at it and go, man, they still sound great. they've done something to kind of change it. So it's not like they understand that some fans are upset with the riot thing, so they've added that little 5 there at the end.
Yeah.
To let fans know it's different. It's not the same thing, but you still have original riot guys, and those that want to continue to keep the continuity going can, and those that don't can start. It's Riot 5, and and they sound good live. If you've seen them, I've played with them. I know the guys are phenomenal. But when you go see Omen, they don't sound so good live. It's really rough and tumble. Kenny has lost a few steps on his guitar playing, and they love him more out of nostalgia than out of his actual playing ability. He's not Jack Starr. He can still get up there and deliver and play, like he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Kenny's up there. It almost sounds like somebody put a chicken on the guitar string and let it go loose, and that's what you're getting. So it's a whole different beeswax, a whole different ball of wax there when it comes to him. But again,
I get it. It's like night and day between them. But I agree. The Ride 5 stuff, I love the original records they put out since Mark Real passed away. This is solid
same.
records. Todd Michael Hall, probably one of the finest singers in any genre
Phenomenal.
of music at all. But then you get promoters like the Keep It True Festival who promote Ride, who are playing there this weekend at the festival.
Mm-hmm.
He takes the 5 out of the Ride, just makes it Riot because, that's what he has to do. You know what I'm saying? So shit like that annoys me. It's little stuff, but it just annoys me as a fan.
Yeah, same here, believe me. And again, it seems, I think people like that, the diehards, the old school. Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the old school guys like that, it just comes off as manufactured and disingenuous. It's like, dude, and everybody behind the scenes knows the deal. And I think our community is tight and small enough to know when people know when something's not real or when something's being manufactured or they're pushing it for this reason. Well, this is for the people that don't know. It's going to be, we're having this band. It's like, come on, man. Everybody knows what's going on here. This is being sold one way to push the tickets, because it's banking highly on the whole nostalgia factor. Yeah. And that's not the way to keep a genre alive. Yeah, that's not the way to keep a style of music healthy and vibrant, and at some point, all these guys are going to start dropping off. People are going to start dying. And then what are you going to do? You've ostracized all the new guys. Oh, no, we've got these bands, the ones that play ball. It also seems weird that most of the bands, or many, at least the ones that I know, that have been canceled there, they're all American bands. Manowar, American. Age of Steel, American. Aska, American. American. White Wizard, American. Sean Peck, Cage, American. So many bands that have got that treatment from all, and it's like, dude, are you an American hater? I don't think so. I would hope not. But who knows? When you start again, like I said, actions speak louder than words sometimes.
True. Unfortunately, it seems like the most vibrant people in our scene are coming from Europe, from Germany, from Greece, from South America. We're straggling. Back in the 80s, every band wanted to come to America to break big, and have their time over here. Yeah. Now it's kind of just reversed that, and we're going like to South America now, Japan. We're going out to Europe, especially Germany and Greece. That's where everything is at right now. That's where every band is focused on. So, what do you guys do in Aska? We're only in the middle of the year right now, closing the middle of the year. What do you got planned for the rest of this year? Anything happening?
Well, we got offered a really nice show here in Dallas, playing with Crimson Glory.
Nice.
But again, here's the thing: are we going to be available? Because since Aska is not everybody's primary bread and butter in the band, people have jobs, people have commitments, and so we're trying to work around outside commitments to the band to see if we can go ahead and do this. And hopefully we'll be able to.
I hope so too. Is putting together a tour possible, even a small tour? Is it just got to stick to the one-offs right now?
Yeah, right now it's the one-offs. We're not opposed to the tours, but again, it has to work with the schedules. We've got people. Everybody's working pretty much in some kind of music-related field or the other, or has irons in the fire in music one way or the other. And then other things as well, extracurriculars as well. And that means that's me, that's Keith, that's Danny, our new guitar player Eric Halpern.
Yeah,
Everybody's
Eric's in
got
the band
other
now.
stuff. Yeah, but we're all very, and he comes he comes with a lot of he's well pedigreed, as we like to say. He played with Hellstar. He was in I think Seven Witches. He was he's been in
This,
several.
he's been in everything with James Rivera.
Yeah, yeah.
Distant
Leatherwood
Thunder,
Walking
Destiny's End, Hellstar.
Yeah, and you know why? It's because they live in the same town.
Yeah.
And he's a very solid, dependable guitar player. And I don't blame James for barking up his tree because he's a guy that you can count on. Eric, he's not a flake. And unfortunately, in this music, as you may have learned already, and so many musicians have learned the hard way, we have a lot of flakes in this business. In this, the world of music and all genres, by and large, attracts a lot of flaky people. Because I think this is substitute for a job. This will be easier than going to work somewhere. And then they find out, holy shit, you got to work 3, 4, 5 times as hard to try to make it in music or to make a dent in music than you do at a job where you can just show up, take it easy, punch a time card, or do your thing and get your weekly paycheck. Music is not that. Music is an uphill battle. I mean, you've got to be in it because you love it. And so many people that weren't fall by the wayside. There's a producer that worked at Nomad Studios in Carrollton, Texas, that told me, he goes, many are called, a few are chosen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
What are you going to do?
Well, hey, George, I'm not going to keep you because the show's only 2 hours long. We've been talking for over an hour. I gotta get music on
bro, I'm sorry.
when it airs this week. No, I love talking to you. I could do this forever.
Yeah, I could talk to you all night, Mike. It's always good to hear you. Thank you for having me, man. Everybody go out, pick up the new Aska Night Strike here. I mean, I told all the truth here. Nobody get mad, please, because I'm just telling the truth. That's all. It doesn't mean I love heavy metal. I love all the people in heavy metal. It's just sometimes when you work with people, like any job, when it's not a job, when it's a job for you, sometimes there's, clashes with some of the people at your workforce, right? At your job. There's always somebody.
The people that listen to the show know because I talk shit about everybody every week, so this is nothing new. This is just another conversation I usually have by myself talking to people listening. So don't worry about it. But it was great talking to you again. It's been a long time, and hey, listen, get here to New York. I mean, I'm going to be coming to Texas. I'll be down more in the San Antonio area. But if you're doing any shows around that time, I'm going to make a trip up to see you.
Well, dude, I'll tell you, Mike, you've got my number. Lock it in your phone. I've had it for over 20 years. Call. If I don't answer, leave a message. Get in touch when you're in Texas. And if we're anywhere near Texas is a huge state. San Antonio's a good 5-hour drive for me.
I know.
But if you're anywhere in our area, if it's DFW or whatever, or if we're playing down there, you would definitely be my guest at whatever show you want to come to. And it would be great to meet you in person, catch up, press the flesh, and say hello.
You got it, my brother.
Also, one more before I go, I just want to say anybody that wants hard copies of Night Strike can go to AskaHQ.com, and that's HQ is for headquarters, right? AskaHQ.com, and you can get vinyl, you can get CDs, you can get downloads there, and also you can just go to Spotify or anywhere where you get the online music, and we are available there. We welcome any and all newcomers, oldcomers. It doesn't matter. If you love heavy metal, give us a look-see. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
They absolutely will. I'll post all those links up. I'll post all the links up on the site this weekend show for you, George.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, Mike. Love you, man. Thank you for having me. And, keep it heavy, man.
You too, brother. Take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
All right. You too.
Stuck you out in the streets.
right, Aska together. I want to thank George Cole for being on tonight's show, Kurt Phillips for being on tonight's show. I know we don't normally do a show on Easter Sunday, and none of the holidays we do a show, but I have to get this Liv Christine interview on because I'm on vacation the week after that. When we come back in May, we've got a full roster of guests that I'm lining up, and I won't be able to get it on. So we will do a show next week. I don't expect anybody to be around to listen to the live show because it is Easter Sunday. If you could join me, great. If not, listen to the replays later on, but we will do a show next Sunday night. And we'll have that interview with Liv Christine we'll get on. So how about we wrap it up here tonight with a little Tinator with Tinnitus. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Happy Easter if I don't talk to you by next Sunday, and see you then.
Tonight it's torture box out.